Welcome to Prepper Talk Radio live stream. It is the weekly live stream. I am Scott, and we got Shane and Paris in the house. How are you guys?
As good as can be expected, I guess. How about you, Scott? I know you had a long day.
Oh, every day's a long day. I'm just glad to be back. I was in Inferno last week. For those of you who live in hot states like Arizona, Nevada, or Texas, pretty much anywhere in the South with hot weather, man, why? I'm so glad to be up here where it's only 100 degrees forecast for the next 4 days instead of 116. Man, oh my gosh. The problem I have is I work outside and I'm in a delivery van.
Hopefully the AC works.
Yes, ones. And those don't have air conditioning in the back. What? And so in the back, it's like 110 during the day right now. Mm-hmm. So next week, it's going to be like 120. So I'm just like getting my sweat on. I'll be losing some pounds. It'll be great.
You'll be your own personal sauna.
Right? Oh. Speaking of saunas, if you want to stop sweating all the time, you need to get yourself invested mentally in understanding gold and silver. Why do I say that? Because we love, preppers all do, gold and silver. It's part of your investment strategy, or at least it should be. And we have a special deal that we've connected with ITM Trading. They're hooking up all of our listeners with a free consultation. So all you got to do is go to their website and register, and they will set up a time with you to go through and understand how to put silver and gold into your portfolio. What are the values? What are the drawbacks? And give you a better understanding of what to do. And you can do that by going to, there it is, itmtrading.com/prepper talk radio. That's it. Just go there, check it out. It is fantastic. You learn a lot. Like I knew a ton already, but this is even better because you really get it good, solid one-on-one and get all your questions answered.
Right. You talk to us, you might get our opinions, what we've heard, but these are true professionals who are in the industry, who are, they are professionals. They're certified, whatever you want to call it. And so you're going to get probably a little bit more level-headed discussion than you would from me. Right.
Yeah. True.
So if you're listening and you want to write down the phone number for a free consultation, it's 866-257-0481. That's 866-257-0481.
Thank you, Paris. And also, as always, we always love Goldbacks. Thank you, Antonio, for posting that. We were skeptical at first. Well, Paris wasn't. Shane was. I was indifferent. I was like, cool. I kind of want some. And now here we are. We all love them and support those as well. So, guys, whatever you're doing, make sure you're getting involved in your daily prep. There's more than just food storage on the horizon of prep, right? Everyone focuses, I got to get my food storage. Well, have you gotten your ways to cook it? Have you got, you start getting into the gold and silver by moving your retirement stuff over, right? But if you don't have your food storage before that, if you don't have your water and your water filtration and a source of warmth, you're jumping ahead too far.
And the tools to cook and the tools to prepare and the tools to be ready, that's all first. That's all way before you start getting into worrying about gold and silver investments.
Yeah, we talk about safety as well. It's the survival rules of three, right? Shelter, water, food, right? But if you don't have safety, are any of them any good, right? So
I wouldn't even call it safety.
Right. That's just the kind of covert way of talking about self-defense, right?
Personal security, right? There's two things that you should have for your personal security at all times. First aid kit and a boomstick or smaller, a boom twig. I'll show this little yellow dummy example for those of you watching. I don't have my sidearm right here, but I'm sure Shane will probably pull out 1 or 5.
Well, I since I started carrying in January, I have always, when I leave the house, I have it on me. But today I left the house to go shopping and I forgot. And I was like, something's weird. I told my son, because he was driving, because my son turned 16 last month or 2 months ago, and he's going to get his driver's license test tomorrow. So I'm excited for him as a dad, but I'm also like not too excited because I know how much the insurance is going to cost now that I got to add another 16-year-old. But I was like, I told him, I feel naked right now. Like I forgot. I can't believe it. What did I do? Anyways, we didn't turn around, but I was like, I got to get back home so I could put it back on.
That's exactly the way I feel. I mean, and actually next week, our 5 o'clock recording, we're going to talk all about handguns in particular. So kind of our experience, where we started, where we're at right now, recommendations, all that fun stuff. So
I'm looking forward to that one. Well, today's topic is actually the calm before the storm. You hear a lot of preppers are talking about how we're in the eye of the hurricane right now. And they're like, oh, it's pretty good right now. We're in the eye of the hurricane. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen anything.
We haven't even seen the 20, 30 mile an hour winds of that storm approaching yet, right?
Yeah, society's stupid, but it's not crazy yet. Like, there's still a few more stepping stones to hit before this bandwagon jumps off the cliff, right? And then we see the storm. And will there be a calm in the storm? Yeah, I believe there will be.
Yeah.
But
especially for those that are prepared.
You've got to survive to that point, and we're not there yet. Like, I'm all about passive preps. I'm all about layered defense, right? And the more stuff I don't have to worry about, the better. It goes back to that anecdote we talked about. Oh man, I think 4 or 5, probably 10 or 12 episodes ago, about the farmer who hires a guy, and he hires him, and the guy's like, what's your qualifications before he hires him? And the guy's like, well, I can sleep when it storms. Being that he already gets everything ready before the end of the day, everything's ready. So that if there's a storm, he doesn't have to get up. He doesn't have to do anything. He just can sleep. And that's our goal as preppers, right? That's my goal, at least. I want to be able to just every day go to bed, and I sleep pretty good, except for kids waking me up. I sleep good because I've got my security taken care of. I've got my food storage, my water filtration. I've got my first aid. I've got warmth. I've got backup generators. I've got solutions for so many different things that I don't have to worry about every day.
Everything is strapped down and ready to go while you're asleep when the storm comes in the middle of the night when you're least expecting it.
Exactly. And I think that's right now what everyone should be focusing on, is strapping down, right? Batten down the hatches. We're getting ready to go into the storm.
I was listening to Tim Pool. I think that's his name. He's got the Pool podcast. He's pretty.
Yeah. I think so.
I may be saying it wrong, but he had a guy on there who's a Christian guy, and I was listening to what he was saying. He says, I'm preparing, because the Bible tells us that at some point we're going to have to disconnect from the Babylonian version of society and what's going on in the world, the worldliness that's out there. And he says, I'm preparing. I'm not leaving, but I'm preparing to disconnect from the system as soon as I need to. And mentally, emotionally, physically, there's a lot of things to do to kind of get ready for that system. Like, we had a great conversation on our live last week with a guy who talking about contract communities, private membership agreements as a way to kind of work the system and be protected. And there's guys also that listen to us. We've got a couple of them here tonight, probably, that are completely disconnected, off grid, like sovereign citizen, full blown, 100%. And so wherever you are, the point of the matter is that at some point, everything is supposed to collapse and go completely kaputs. And we got to be ready so that when that happens, we're not caught off guard. And that's the real key about the eye before the storm. We just had, if you listen to our last podcast on Tuesday that went out, obviously this live is going to be next Tuesday if you're listening live. But if you are listening on the podcast, it's going to be the last one we did, where we talked to a guy who is an economist, who he's got a background in economics. We brought him on to talk about ropes, but we ended up talking about economics for the last 5 or 10 minutes. And he kind of laid it out. And Shane and I agree, like, the things that are happening in the world right now are very much preparing us for those that are paying attention to realize that, hey, all this stuff is actually coming to a head here pretty soon, and we better be ready for it. I don't, so just a couple lists of the things that are in my mind as terms of calm before the storm. What storm? Well, first of all, we got whether you liked President Trump or Donald Trump or not, the precedent that is being set right now with all the legal stuff that's coming at him is not appropriate. It's totally a police state, and it's this hypocrisy at the highest levels. Whether you agree with, I don't agree necessarily with everything Donald Trump said. I like a lot of the stuff he said, and I would, anyways, I voted for him, and I'll probably do it again. But the point is that what's happening to him and all these indictments is not right. Then we're seeing, the BRICS nations are coming out with their new currency next month in August, apparently, supposedly. CBDCs in our own country, the Federal Reserve is supposed to announce those this month, July. As of the recording of this video, it's July, and that's supposed to happen by the end of this month. And I think it's another 10 days or something like that. It's the official launch. And then we've got, China and Taiwan. We've got Ukraine and Russia. We've got the president just signing was it an executive order where they sent all those reservists over to Europe?
I don't know if it was an executive order, but
anyways, but he just signed a whole big thing to send a bunch of reservists, not active duty reservists, over to Europe. What are they planning? What are they preparing for?
So, Paris, in other words, you're saying the word calm should have two of these around it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess to further clarify, the calm of the storm, we're not really in a calm, right? If you think about it, we're not. If you're watching the mainstream, if you're not paying attention to all these things Parrish is talking about, I have a long list too. You would think, yeah, it's all as calm. There's no banks failing right now. FTX, that thing's kind of all gone. Everything is okay. Look, the stock market's going up, right? If that's your world, then yeah, things are pretty calm. But if you're watching, it's not really calm. But what I mean by this statement, we're in the calm before the storm really hasn't even hit. We're just seeing maybe the first waves, or the boat's beginning to rock. We see the storm coming. Those who are see the storm coming and are starting to strap things down.
You're getting a little rain. You're getting some wind. Like there's so many little bits of evidence along the way of there are things going on that are not normal, not natural. The train derailments, the chemical spills, right? We're seeing a little bit by little bit more and more of those things happening. We're seeing the super woke agenda pushing on the far left, right? We're seeing more and more. Oh, and Mike Lamb, perfect. We're seeing UFOs and alien crap all over the place. Distractions, right? Mm-hmm. So the real news that should be covered isn't being covered, and then we're seeing all this UFO stuff, or we're seeing all kinds of weird. Oh yeah, well, the flying Tic Tacs and everything else, and Foo Fighters and it's crazy how much the news media is completely blowing over all the important things and only focusing on, well, for example, all the legal things with Donald Trump, all the Foo Fighter stuff, all the aliens and UFOs. And what's funny is like my social media feed all of a sudden is full of all these conspiracy theory things, and they're all going to the Nephilim, which we're not going to get into. It's just a whole other please distraction topic. What?
Yeah, please don't. Yeah, not this show.
It's like you could spend hours and hours dredging up weird crap on the news today, and none of it's relevant. And a lot of it, if you look at the footage, it's old stuff. It's old hat. They're just reusing it and saying, "Oh, this is happening currently in Des Moines, Iowa. There's buildings are burning down." And you're like, "What?"
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to point out is that if the media is talking about it, if the government's talking about it, oh, we're thinking about this, or we're planning on that, it's already done. It's already in the works or complete, right? Like, for example, they're saying the government saying, "Oh, we're going to send the F-16s over to Ukraine." That's already done. I mean, they're already there, in my opinion. Of course, it's just my speculation. But
also the recent gaffe, or if you want to call it, but Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Oh, we're working on this and this and that, and population control and this and that, and like they're throwing stuff in there, depopulation, and they're throwing those in there, and you're like, yeah, we already know.
It's part of their disclosure. We know that they've got to disclose, and if we don't do anything about it, we don't say anything about it, then we're part of it, right? We become, we agree to it.
You know what's crazy? I was listening to a podcast today, and they brought up something about the fact that They brought up something. Sorry about that. They brought up something about how the what do they bring up? Biden cuts off funding to Wuhan Institute of Virology linked to COVID-19 outbreak. And this was what was this? This was Washington Post or something like that. It's like, wait a minute. Biden cuts off funding to I thought we weren't even funding that. I thought that was
Right.
that was a conspiracy. I thought that was a lie. Like now it's like,
no
wait a minute.
connection whatsoever.
Yeah,
Yet.
No connection to the Virology Institute in Wuhan, but now we're like, wait, not only were we funding it, but he is admitting that we were funding it by cutting off the funding. That now only admits that they were lying about the fact that whether we were or not funding it in the first place. It's like, wait a minute, like all of the stuff that we were, all of us, the old idea that, tell your conspiracy theorist friend that you're sorry because everything that they said was true or coming true. It's really coming out, and it's really wild to me to see all this stuff come out. And I feel like they're poking the conservative bear, if you will, the right side bear. If they, when moms, I know moms that are want nothing to do with politics, and then all of a sudden they're now running for office, and now they're trying to get on school boards, and now they're trying to, save their. I got people that run for Congress that I know now that wouldn't have ever thought of that before, and so it's like. That's part of the storm, is this whole stirring up of not only are the left pushing their agenda, but now the right is like, look, we need to stand up and defend this stuff, because otherwise we're going to just get trampled on. And there should be a way for us to come together and coordinate. And there's definitely some strengths that we need to progress and moving forward is part of things. Staying in the old routine, the old traditions, that's never good. It's always good to, keep what we have and then progress slowly. But man, the stuff that's coming at us is like, we want you to change overnight. And like, well, that's not how it works, especially with this agenda with teaching our kids, like transgender, all kinds of stuff, not to get too much into it, but I don't want to have my kids reading books in their library that are sexualized, and it's just way too rampant right now. And that's another thing that's the calm before the storm, is not only are the attacks going to come, but there's a calm before the storm that if they don't stop, there's going to be a storm of conservative valued people that are going to say enough's enough. We draw the line and you've hit the wall, and you're not passing the wall from here.
And many of them already are. Like there's so many people that are standing up, and it's exciting to see. They're standing up, they're fighting back. I mean, the congressional session they just talked about to the FBI about like the oversight and the issues with all these parents at PTA meetings and what's going on with that. And they have over 200 FBI agents assigned to the task force to figure out what's going on with these, and they have made 0 arrests. There are not 0 arrests. They have prosecuted 0 people. So they were arresting people and then letting them go because what they found was what they had done was illegal. They shouldn't have arrested those people in the first place. They were well within their rights to speak, First Amendment, and to speak out against these boards. And the FBI is like, no, shut up. We're going to take you and haul you off. And, oh, well, we did that wrong. We're going to let you go. And I think it's like just the tipping point. And we're going to see a lot of conservative valued people just really pushing back.
Well, and the question is, for me at that point, is that going to be enough to actually calm the storm, to turn the storm away? Or is it going to give us more time? Or is it going to cause them, air quotes, them to clamp down, to do something?
Is it going to stoke the fire?
Exactly. Is it going to cause them to push their agenda harder and faster? Which we can see that they have stepped things up and are stepping things up. Like, for example, the BRICS currency right there. This has been a rumor for years and years. It really has been that the BRICS is going to start their own currency. That now it's gold backed, although I think that's still a rumor. I sure hope so. And I can go into that. But what I'm seeing is that things could these kinds of pushbacks could cause the table to flip, either the table to flip or to for them to speed up their process. Like, for example, I'm saying the BRICS currency, that could, the rumblings are that they could, on their announcement in August, I forget which date, they could say, we are no longer accepting the US dollar, period. That they could at that point just shut it off. Is that possible? I don't really know. A lot of the professionals say, no, that's not possible. The dollar's way too big, yada, yada. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe anything that comes out of the mainstream that says, oh, especially these mainstream advisors who are professionals who've been, who watch the dollar
programmed. Yeah,
exactly. And they're saying, no, this couldn't happen. The dollar has way too much influence. It's way too established. They can't just flip. I don't know if I believe any of that. So it could either stem the tide a little bit, push the storm out, and we stay on the edge of the storm for longer, or we're immediately into the storm.
I think it's going to be, in certain aspects of life, we're going to be thrown right into the storm, thrown into the deep end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think in other aspects of life, we're going to be there. That's going to be where they're like dangling the carrot in front of the donkey, right? Well, like I think with the money, it's going to be the dangling carrot for a little while, and then it'll shift. But in the meantime, they're like, but to get the carrot, now we're going to throw this rule on you, and this rule on you, and this rule on you. And so it goes back to right now, if you're not prepping, if you're not starting your stockpile and rotating your goods, if you haven't already started doing that, you're kind of screwed right now, because costs are going up. Inflation's driving that. There is some scarcity, but there's always solutions, right? You just have to be smarter about how you're doing things, and you've got to start stockpiling, most importantly, skills.
Yeah.
Skills, knowledge, and mindset. I mean, mindset, I think, is one of the most undervalued, along with perspective, points in preparedness. Everyone's like, oh, I got my gun, I'm good. Or, oh, I got my beans, I'm good, right? And they have a false sense of security because they're not well-rounded, and they haven't strengthened their mind to deal with hard things.
Well, I think part of that you mentioned, you've got your concealed carry. You carry that every day. You feel naked without it. But have you made those decisions? Okay, if this situation happens, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I know, Scott, you and I had this discussion quite a while ago, several years ago. We were sitting down in a restaurant and we were talking amongst each other. What would you do if someone came to the front door and held up the attendant there at the front, and of course our first response is there's a back door right behind us, we're going to go out back, or are we going to stand up and defend the other people in the restaurant? I mean, those are the kind of hard decisions. I don't know what I would do still at this point. It really would depend, but those are the hard decisions that need to be made now before the storm hits, right? When the calm of the storm, while you can actually see the storm coming and those potential situations that may arise where you need make that decision now. And I think as the storm gets closer, you can see those situations better, or you should be able to. I should be able to see those situations better and be able to make a better choice before that storm gets here. If that makes sense.
Well, it's interesting. Totally. You brought up the point of, the restaurant. When we were at that restaurant a few years ago, my perspective on that's kind of shifted over the years.
Yeah, I noticed.
Especially when we went shooting the last time out west, and I saw you with your handgun pinging. What was that? 100 yards, 150 yards?
Yeah, something like that.
I was just I'm like, dang, bro, that's impressive. I'm good for 20 yards with my handgun, good-ish. But that was a big eye opener for me, because it's if you're in a crowded area and there is a gunman, do you know where you are still able to hit them at distances, right? Are you able to? Are you aware enough of what's behind them if you miss, or who could pop up in front of them while you're taking aim? There's a lot of factors, and it's to really get good and be ready for that, you've actually got to practice those scenarios.
Yep.
And that's what nobody's doing.
Yeah, there's actually Todd Nielsen with his training program. Every once a month, at the range, they'll do a concealed carry scenario like that. So it's about as close as you can get to anything like that. So there's a couple places like that. If you want to reach out to us, we'll see if we can get you connected. But absolutely, the skill sets, I think are going to be critical. And mindset changes everything. If you believe that you can survive, your mind will then look for ways for solutions to the problems that are ahead of you. If you don't believe that you can survive and you're just going to die because nobody's there to do it for you, and the grocery store doesn't have food on the shelves, and you're not going to figure out what to do, like you're going to just cry yourself to death, and literally like to death. So having the skill sets to know what's going on and being watchful, like I don't blame anybody right now for being depressed. Like there are plenty of reasons every day to wake up. You just turn on the news and like, are we going to war? Are we not going to war? Is the economy collapsing? Is it not collapsing? Are presidents of the United States now liable for things that shouldn't have been? They weren't. The last several. What's going on? Is my kid going to be kidnapped? Like right now, there's a huge amount of information about human trafficking, and that's a huge thing to be prepared for and be ready for and be aware of. There's so many things to be aware of that it's almost overwhelming, and there's no reason for you to think that you're going to die in pain. But there's plenty of reasons to feel that way, but there's also solutions. There's also life can, if you're prepared, if you're learning, if you're developing skills, learning self-defense, have your food storage and have your water storage, have all those things in place. And the other thing too is, as a financial guy, I have clients that are like, what should we do about the stock market? Well, be wary, be watchful, because right now it's going up. So I was talking with Shane earlier today, and on the phone, he and I was like, look, what was it that pigs get
bulls get rich, bears get rich, but pigs get slaughtered.
So
or I should say, bulls and bears make money, but pigs get slaughtered. So
don't get slaughtered. If you're going to keep money in the market, which I don't mind if you do, but be very careful and watchful. And if you've got an exit strategy, use it. Now's the time to put those exit strategies in place and use them when the time comes. Because like I shared earlier in the show, that guy who was saying that he's preparing himself mentally and emotionally and physically to completely unplug from the grid. That's where we need to be right now. Like mentally work through that, mentally, emotionally, and physically. If the grid died, if there was an economics collapse tomorrow, would you be okay? If you did lose, $100,000 in the stock market, do you have other assets? Do you have other resources to get you through the first 90 days? Because after that, if there's a bigger problem, now you've got to have solutions, the skill sets and seeds that we talked about a couple of episodes ago. We had the lady on for seeds, the survival garden seeds. Like you got to have other things in place to be able to survive longer than that 90-day cycle. And that your 90-day pantry is the minimum. And then the rest of your food storage will get you through the rest of it. But that's the thing is, I don't necessarily believe that the stock market's going to collapse tomorrow. But if it did, I do have other resources, other assets, other things that I could get me through it. So it's really preppers are those that have contingency plans. What are your contingency plans? And make sure that you know what they are, that they're well thought out, and that maybe you even have a couple contingency plans for your contingency plans.
Well, one thing Antonio mentioned. Sorry, Scott. One thing that Antonio mentioned here is something that I see as the storm comes up, and we're seeing it all over the world, is that crops are failing. Look what happened just recently. Ukraine, Russia, their agreement they had for the wheat and corn grain deal that they have, that Russia just basically backed out of that, and they're not going to allow any more exports from Ukraine. So food is going to be an issue. So like Antonio said here, let's get going on our vegetable gardens and learning how to preserve food. And so it has been a goal, and I'm building a greenhouse, but I just decided today I'm going to make sure 100% that by next spring I'm ready to plant everything I need to plant, because I'm not there yet, and I've been working on it for a while. But sorry to interrupt, Scott.
You don't have to do everything today. Like you've got to take action today to do something today, right? You're working on the greenhouse now. You're getting it set up for the next season. That's key, right? Getting your seeds in advance, keep them in a store. A storage location that's cold and dry, right? Mm-hmm. Out of the sunlight, out of the heat. But the key is like you've got to be doing something now. And more people, it's fun to watch. More and more people are getting into homesteading and gardening and living more naturally with the earth than ever before. Well, I shouldn't say ever before. Than in the last 60 years. right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you really want to get smart about the future, it goes back to looking at the past. What's your famous line, Shane?
Look to the past to prepare for the future.
Yeah, like look at historically what's happened to wipe out countries, to wipe out situations. Whited Outdoors, I want to show this. Somebody was the reserve currency for the world before us. And I'm sure they never thought that would change either.
Yep.
But it did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every
It will
society
again.
that's ever gotten big, Rome collapsed, Egypt collapsed. Like if you really think of it, there's always someone rising and someone else falling.
Well, before the United States, it was the Dutch, I think. So, and now it's us. Like, and now we're at that point. So I was listening to, again, this other podcast today that I was listening to, and even our last guest on the last show we had brought it up. But if you think about what's happening right now with China, first of all, China is in the BRICS nations. It's one of the BRICS countries.
Mhm.
They've been buying up gold like mad to be able to have a bigger, more powerful voice at the IMF, the Intermonetary Fund board, their table there where they make decisions. But if you think about what's happening over the last maybe 5 to 10 years, their president has said several times, prepare for war. Like over and over again, he keeps saying, prepare for war. They just had some skirmishes, like right now between China and Taiwan. There's some very serious, like deadly serious things going on there that if that erupts into something that's kinetic, even more than it already has been shown, we could literally lose, if not completely cut off from China and the supply chain. Like what if everything that in manufacturing in American soil all receives their goods and services from China? Like, and then China says, you know what? Because you're defending Taiwan, we're going to cut you off, US. Like,
yeah,
we've told a lot of these countries, we put sanctions on them. Well, what happens when they start sanctioning us and doing things to us that we don't like? It's going to be a really big wake-up call for those people that haven't focused on American-made, American-manufactured, and local stuff. So if you want to, that's kind of a plug for our Patriot Switch affiliate link. So if look in the description below on switching to a patriotic, American-made products and services, but also even more local than that. Like get involved with your local community and farmers. What are those?
Farmish. So here, do this.
Yeah.
Go. Bookmark a page, open up a web browser and go to patriotswitch.com/prepper talk. And then go on another tab and type in Farmish and look for that app and download it to your phone. It'll like local farmers markets and local people selling eggs and vegetables and livestock. Like they're starting to use that app all across the United States and Canada. So you can find locals to go buy and sell and trade with. Like my neighbor down the street is already talking to me about next year's cow. He's like, hey, do you want to go in 50-50 on a cow with me next year? We can get a better price if we split it between the two of us. And I'm like, dude, I can't eat a half a cow a year. My family doesn't eat that much meat. And he goes, yeah, but you'll have it. And I'm all, I don't want to deep freeze a half a cow. I can only fit a quarter of a cow maybe in my freezer.
Awesome.
I'm like, can you find another person? We can go, you can go halvesy and we'll each go a quarter. Like, come on. But like, if I just go out and garden all the time, it's not enough food.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's also very expensive to start, but once you get it going and you've got your perennials and stuff, like everything that comes back next year is money that you've invested, you've paid once, and it just provides for a long, long time. That's why fruit trees are so valuable, right? Nut trees are so valuable. Getting those things where it's permaculture, it's a lot easier to live and afford to live off a garden. But you also want to have your meat solutions, whether those are chickens laying eggs or whether you've got rabbits. That is the fastest meat producer known. Yeah, it's not very fatty, but it's a meat producer. If you really want your protein, that's the way to go.
They're too cute for me. I can't do it.
Oh, I don't think they're cute at all. They're tasty. Okay, they're cute, but like I don't focus on that when I have to slaughter one, aka process.
Chickens, okay, I could do that. But
Here's
rabbits, no.
Here's another thing. Going back to sorry, Scott, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you've got to start doing those things now. Like I've got neighbors that have rabbits. I've got a brother-in-law that's got rabbits, and we've helped with those in the past. I've got neighbors who have chickens, and we've also got quails at my brother-in-law's, and it's like we're working on these solutions together, even though like I don't have the time or capacity where I live to be able to do that, but he does. My goal is to get to where I can do that from home and not have to worry about it, but I'm not quite there yet. But I've got the greenhouse and I've got some fruit trees, and I'm going to get some more, and we're going to keep growing and expanding our permaculture so it's less, right? Invest in something now so that it keeps paying off over years. Like, for example, I did a course. I paid crap tons of money for a course. I learned a skill, and then I turned on that skill, did some work, and that pays me a little bit every month. It's not much, but it's a little bit. And if I spend more time doing it, it'll pay more, right? It becomes a passive income, and then I can let it sit there and keep generating revenue for me. Same goes for food. Certain things you can just let it go and it'll come back every year. Don't get wandering garlic. It will wander all over your entire plantation. Like, it will take over. But if you do get it and put it in a small box container, but don't put it anywhere else. Otherwise you're in trouble. But there's certain things that they just come back every year. It's fantastic. So that's my plug for that. Like, just get some stuff now that's going to continue to produce for you from year over year over year.
I was just going to share another thing that's kind of in the news right now or recently about, that should be a wake-up call for all of us as to where we're headed. Most of the time, when I sit down with people who are in the preparedness community, they really understand or want to understand more and believe in the Constitution and our rights and privileges and our God-given rights. More importantly, America is not the Constitution technically wasn't written just for our country. It should be the Constitution for all of mankind. One of the things that is really scary is that I think it was either a W or an M state. I can't remember which one it was, but they recently passed a law that it's a felony now if you don't use someone's pronouns, or it could be for not using that. And I'm like, or a fine of some kind. It's like, well, that totally just slaps the face of the First Amendment for free speech and other things like that. So, like, why are you compelling my speech? Why are you forcing me to say something that I don't believe in, or I don't believe, that doesn't coincide with my beliefs? Forced or compelled speech is just it's another version of, it's taking away free speech. It's just a different way of looking at it. And that's just scary to me that we're seeing states completely disregard the Constitution and completely disregard the rule of law, the real rule of law, and creating these woke agenda crazy laws that just make no sense. I did a video on my financial channel recently about investing your money in companies that are going to have the same kind of, that are taking those profits and they're actively pursuing the same values that you are. Don't invest in companies or buy the stocks of companies that are taking their profits and investing in things or advocating for things that are against what you believe. So even at that level, I'm starting to change some of the things that I do. And because I want to really, I want to put my money where my mouth is, more basically is what I'm trying to say. And it's slowly but surely moving that direction.
There's a product made here in the United States that I bought. I'm not going to say the name of it, but it's a mineral drink. It is the most disgusting thing I've ever drank. You're only supposed to do a teaspoon a day, and so I do that. But I've had like massive muscle cramps for months, and they just don't go away. I'll wake up in the middle of the night with them, and I finally, I'm like, none of the supplements I'm taking are working. And I looked at the supplement types, and it's all these things that our bodies don't naturally just absorb right. I'm like, I got pissed off, and I found this other product recommended to me, and I'm like, screw it, I'm going to buy it. And I have every morning I make this face, and it's horrible. And it is, I don't have muscle cramps anymore. Right.
Oh, wow.
You just have to do what you need to do. This is a bitter pill. You have to swallow. You have to start doing it. Like Mike just pointed out, and he corrected his spelling in his next post, but he says, keep in mind for gardening, pioneers did not start planting until next week. They weren't here yet. And so then they started late in the season, and they still had a harvest. Like we had a guy in our group join our Facebook group. talking about hydroponic solutions. You can do those year round. That's the cool thing about hydroponics and aquaponics. You can set it up year round in your house and use grow lights if you want to. Like, there are other ways to do this. You don't have to just go back, boondock it, and be like, hey, I'm only going to do it the way my great-great-grandparents did it. No. Just do it. Figure out what works for you. Become the local expert. First, become the expert in your house, then become the expert in your neighborhood on how to do it the way you want to do it. If there's a way that that makes sense to me, jump on it and start doing that now. Because if you're not prepared and something happens in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, doesn't matter, or tomorrow, you now have more work to do to survive on the daily than you would if you have things taken care of now.
Mm-hmm.
So, Paris, are you familiar with the fear-greed index?
I've heard of it before. Yeah.
Have you looked at it lately? So,
no, I haven't.
One thing that has been made that I've noticed, and other podcasters have pointed this out, is the extreme greed is the highest level of the greed index. It goes from like 0 to 100, and extreme greed is like 75 to 100. We've been in this extreme greed, and there are certain ways that this is measured, and I'm not sure exactly how it's measured, but we've been in this extreme greed level. And Paris, you ought to take a look closer at this for longer than any other amount of time. It's been weeks and weeks. It's been multiple weeks. At this point, we have been in this extreme greed, the fear-greed index. And I'm sorry, I don't have all the data. It just came to my mind that we've been in that extreme greed portion of this index for longer than we ever have. So if that isn't an indicator that we are at the edge of a storm, there you go, right there, extreme greed, then I don't know what is, right?
Yeah.
And they'll probably explain here exactly how it's measured.
No, that's something that Ray Dalio talks about in his book, the world currencies, or the changing world order. He talks about the last part of any major world reserve currency is that right before it collapses, there's this extreme greed, and nobody really cares about the financial fundamentals of savings and buying things based on value. They're just buying because there's so much money. They printed so much money. There's trillions of dollars that they've printed extra. We have so much debt available to us. Like, you can go get a credit card for whatever and just blow a whole ton of money, and then, pay us back later. And then if you don't want to pay back later, there's all these other things you can do. So we're in that extreme greed, not just not just for weeks, but also in just all levels of the economy, which puts us in a very precarious position that if we're not careful, we could actually lose. That's one of the major indicators for us losing our position as the world reserve currency. And with BRICS coming out with these are major nations. These aren't third world countries that are saying, hey, we want to do a different thing than the dollar. These are like the next biggest countries in the world that are coming out saying, hey, we don't like what you're doing, dollar. We don't like what you're doing, America. We want to do our own thing. And they actually have a system in play, and they're attracting nations at a very rapid pace. Like, more and more nations are coming. I think Ethiopia just joined.
Yeah, I think another 50 to 60 have their applications turned in to become part of BRICS. They've requested to become part of BRICS, but they haven't been granted yet.
When you're the monopoly, you can make all the choices. You can say what you want. But when now you're in a place where there's like, wait a minute, there's an alternative that's equally as powerful, equally as strong, and now we're going to compete. That's when you got to be careful. And that's where the United States America is in a place right now. And we just have our head in the sand. Too many people in America have our head in, and that's one of the things that frustrates me, is that, I call him the enemy, the devil. The enemy has so many things that they're doing, so many different ways that they're attacking us, that we're looking over here to defend ourselves over here, and he's attacking us over here too. And we're like, wait a minute, I can't be looking both ways. I gotta have eyes in the back of my head to be able to defend against everything. And
gotta have your head on a swivel. Well, the other thing is
so important, having a good community.
If he can't get you to sin, he's going to get you busy.
Yeah.
And distracted. And so many people are just busy. Oh, well, the kids have soccer and then taekwondo and then this and that. They're like, we're so busy with so many things. Oh, I've got to work on my side hustle, my main hustle, and go to my work and go to and it's like you strip all that down to like, what are the basics? What are the things that actually benefit my quality of life? And strip everything down to that, and you're going to find a lot more time, and you're going to find a lot more peace. But like most people are so distracted and so busy that maybe they're living a life without sin, but they're not doing the things that they need to do to weather the storm that's coming.
Yeah, the sins of omission, what we're omitting
Sins
to
of
do.
omission.
Mm-hmm.
They're in many ways, in my opinion, equal or worse than the sins of commission, because you're living in a dream world that everything's going to be fine and that you're okay and that you're fine because you're doing the best you can, but you're not. You're just busy.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, before we wrap up, I just wanted to just acknowledge this comment real quick. Billy Bird, if you're not prepared to live like a hunted animal, you're not prepared at all. I'm going to think about that more, Billy. I have not considered that quote right there, but I'm going to think more about that and see what that really means to me. So, but I appreciate your comments.
Well, we're going to do next week. We're going to be talking. One of our topics is escape and evade, right?
Yep.
And so that's something that's going to be, if you're a hunted animal, you're going to need to learn how to escape and evade. So hopefully you guys can tell your friends to come on. And if you guys know people that are really good at that, make some comments and bring some some wisdom to the show next week. So that's going to be I think that'd be great. Because that's true. If we know how to escape and evade, I mean, even in urban settings, like right now, especially if with all this information that's coming about human trafficking, we're going to need to know how to keep ourselves safe and our kids safe and our wives safe and our women safe. And ladies that are out there listening, you're going to need to learn how to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
And nobody's immune to this. Nobody's exempt. We all need to be watchful and watching each other and helping each other and protecting each other, especially in our communities and amongst our friends.
To wrap up tonight's show, leaning into next week, talking about the escape and evade, and leaning back on that comment by Billy Bird, like the value of being a pack animal is one of the most impressive investments you can be making right now in your life. How hard is it for a lion to get a zebra? It's extremely difficult when they're all around each other.
When it's a healthy zebra, right?
Right. When you're alone and you're sick and you're troubled, like you stack on the problems. Okay, when I'm so distracted, that's like being sick and ill, right? I'm an easier target for being hunted. That's what the lions and the jackals and everybody else are looking for, are the weak ones. That's the unprepared. So if anything from today's topic, if you can take away and start creating a to-do list of all the things that are top priority for you that you haven't done already, do those first. Get your basics, and then stack on. Enhance your security, enhance your water, enhance your food, enhance, and start building those redundancies if you haven't already done so. If you're brand new to this, make sure you join our Facebook group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance. Yeah. We broadcast live every week, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure you join this weekly live. Ask questions. We do have open sessions occasionally where we just want to hear what you guys have to say, and we'll bring in our expertise. But we also bring on guests that know a lot more in certain specific areas. So stay tuned. Like Paris was just saying, keep your head on a swivel. World's getting a little wacky out there, and you're not always going to see everything coming if you're keeping your eyes down and looking at your cell phone as you're walking around. So thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for not tuning out, and don't forget to stay ready-minded, be ready-minded, and bring others with you. Thanks for tuning in this week, guys. We appreciate all your comments and everything you can do. Man, we just love this audience that we work with. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you.